Welcome to IVF This, episode 90, Time Scarcity, part 2. Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go. Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you are all doing so well. I was getting ready to leave for my business trip for the first time since November of 2019. I can hardly believe it. I'm so excited, but I'm also a little bit nervous, right? But I have decided that I'm going to have a great trip. Parts of it are not going to be fun, like being at the airport and flying and all that, but I'm doing a really fun riverboat cruise and some people that I've never met before but have worked with for a really long time and a lot of other really cool stuff. So even though I'm going to be away from my family for the first time, and I really don't like traveling without my family. That's not something I enjoy doing. I really love being at home. I am one of those people. It's all 50-50, right? So it's really interesting. I wasn't intending to make a 2-parter out of this series, this time scarcity. But as I was reflecting back on the first part of the time scarcity episode, I don't really feel like I fleshed out the I'm running out of time aspect of time scarcity. Now, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, the first part of time scarcity, I want you to stop. I want you to stop this one and go back and listen, because a lot of what I say may not make sense since that was originally designed to be a standalone episode. So what I said about the sense of urgency from the last episode still stands for this type of thinking, this thought, I'm running out of time. It's still very seeped in a great deal of urgency because the underlying belief is that I'm still feeling this sense of urgency because I don't want to be feeling what I'm feeling right now. And I think it's better somewhere else, right? So I won't belabor that point, but I just want to say it still very much applies to this question or this thought. And the question that I have for you at the end of the episode is still a great technique for combating this type of urgency. But I want to expand on the I'm running out of time thought. In the last episode, I did talk about the very biological nature of the female reproductive anatomy. There is, in essence, a ticking clock, even though I absolutely hate that phrase. So let's take that stuff I talked about in the previous episode, and we're going to add on to it this idea that at its core is a mental construct that people created to help quantify and understand the universe and movement. Time is truly only a reflection of change, right? Time is just made up. It's just made up in our heads. We came up with the 24-hour system. Not all civilizations had a 24-hour system. The number of days that we have, the number of days in a week, in a month, a year, it's all about time. I mean, even how long a second is, all of that is a mental construct. That means that it's created in our heads with our thoughts, and our thoughts assign meaning to them. We don't typically think about a second as a long time, but if someone you love isn't breathing, a second feels like an eternity. Sometimes an hour feels like it will never end. Other times, the hour just flies by. How is that possible? It's because of how we're experiencing it through our thinking. This is actually really similar to money. Money is a completely made up social construct between humans. In America, we've said, we have all these bills, they're green, they're dead presidents' faces on them, which is a little bit weird, but okay. And here we go. This is just what you can get for that. It is the relative value of that, but it's all in our heads. It's just an agreement that we all have, that we all abide by. Similar to our time scarcity, many of us have a lot of money scarcity thoughts too. And I talked a little bit about that in the last episode and how over the course of the next few months, I'm going to do a podcast on money scarcity too. Lots of us have just as many scarcity thoughts about time as we do about money, especially when we feel like we're constantly racing the clock or spending all of this money trying to make babies. The same way that when someone's asking for money, you have a lot of money scarcity. You're like, no, I'm not going to share my money. It's the same thing when we have time scarcity. Like, no, I'm not going to give you another half hour of my time to sit in a meeting or to do this or to do that. No way, right? Now, this is not to say there isn't, again, a biological implication to how our bodies and fertilities diminish and deteriorate over time. Again, I talk about that in the last episode. I'm not going to gloss over that. What we're wanting to focus on in this episode is how we interpret the passage of time. When we tie that to our infertility, it makes us feel awful. So let me ask you this. How many times over the past month have you thought time is running out in reference to something that was not within the context of infertility? Maybe you're working on a project for school or work. You have a deadline approaching. Maybe it's just that you have a list of things that you want done today, just for fun or work or whatever, and it feels like time is slipping away. Maybe you have a list of to-dos and then a doctor's appointment towards the end of the day, and you're trying to get everything off your list, but the appointment grows closer and closer, and you tell yourself, oh my God, time is running out. Maybe you're writing and recording a podcast to try and get out of town, and you keep telling yourself that it's running out of time. Like, it's a little bit deeper personal waters right there, but I mean, it comes up all of the time for us. I'd venture to guess that most of us have had that thought at least once this month outside of the context of infertility. When my clients talk to me about running out of time, the way that they describe it is like they're telling me the news, like it's just straight facts. Well, of course, Emily, we're running out of time. But what I want you to understand is that that is just a thought. It is your current experience of time, right? So let's say you're 41 and you're starting IVF, and running out of time might be, I'm running out of time. One, that thought is not exclusive to a specific age range. I've got clients in their mid-20s that say that to me because where they are in their lives does not equal where they expected to be at that age. One of my clients expected to be pregnant at 26, right? She's now 28. In her words, I had my whole life planned out. I was going to finish my degree at 22, my master's at 24, get married at 25, and start having babies at 26. Like, this was really specifically written out. This was like the manual. I don't know if you guys remember a few episodes ago, we all have a manual for things. That was her manual for her life. Now, it can be very easy if you are older than that and experiencing infertility to dismiss her concerns. Not that you would, but the idea of time scarcity at that age might not be true for you. Right? Because it's all subjective. It's all based on our experience of time. And that is because time scarcity, the thought about running out of time, is a thought. If it cannot be universally proved or universally true, like 1 + 1 = 2, then it's a thought. It's not a fact. Now, I understand that it feels very real to you, and that's completely understandable. But simply because something feels real to you does not make it inherently true or universally true. So now we've identified the thought, time is running out. We've noticed it, right? We have to see what that feeling is creating. I talk a lot about urgency in the last podcast, so that might be applicable. Another one might be panic. You might be experiencing a sense of panic when you think I am running out of time or time is running out. Really, it's either way. When we feel a sense of panic, remember our brain cannot differentiate between a physical perceived or a real threat or a psychologically perceived or real threat. It's all interpreted the same. So when our fight or flight kicks in, which tends to happen when we experience panic, all of your executive functioning goes out the window. That beautiful, and if you're over the age of 26, fully developed prefrontal cortex is completely inaccessible to you. All of your executive functioning, planning, response techniques are not available to you when you are in the throes of that panic. You are emotionally flooded. And just like when a car gets flooded, that essential function of continuing to run is just not available to the car, right? It's just not available to your brain. That's how your brain works when it gets emotionally flooded. It perceives a threat and it shuts down any and all functions that are not necessary for survival. Your executive functioning skills are not really necessary for your survival, so they get cut off in the power drain. What is in charge is your limbic system, which, amongst other things, is the part of your brain that controls your emotion and activates the fight or flight responses. Interestingly enough, another function of our limbic system controls our desire for reproduction and maternal instincts as well. So it's all fascinatingly connected. Anyway, this is where all of our unconscious thought patterns come from. That negativity bias that I've talked about before, all of that is in charge in that moment. So of course, when you think that thought, what's going to happen? Your brain is going to go for a free-for-all down the spiral rabbit hole about how terrible this is, how little time there is, how when time runs out, you're going to be confronted with this childless, joyless life, right? Or maybe your family looks very different from how you'd always imagined it. And we have to remember, we have to honor that those are very, very painful thoughts. So one of the ways we want to try to calm that response is by grounding yourself. When you're emotionally flooded, until you can calm your brain down and reassure it that you're not going to die, you will not be able to address any thoughts. Emotions come first, and then we work on cognition, okay? There's no other way around it. Like, I know people want to argue with me. Emotions have to come first. I've shared a few grounding techniques on this podcast before, and honestly, you can search Google or Pinterest or whatever for grounding techniques, and you will find hundreds. One that I will share with you is the candle flower technique for breathing. This is a way to calm your breathing in moments like this, which is what we're talking about. Grounding doesn't have to be this big, long thing. It can really just take about 30 seconds to help you get back into your body and out of your brain. Okay. So what I want you to do is hold your index finger about 6 inches from your face. And we're going to pretend that your finger is a flower, and we're going to smell it. We're going to inhale for a count of 5. Then for the exhale, you're going to pretend your finger is a candle, and you're going to blow out the flame and exhale for a count of 5. You're going to repeat that cycle 3 to 5 times. When you feel much more centered and grounded, now it's the time for the cognitive part. Since time is a mental construct, any issue with time that you have originates in your brain. It's not external to you, in the world, or your surroundings. Let me just repeat that. Any issue that you have with time has nothing to do with other people or the world around you. It is 100% how you are thinking about it. I want you to know, and some of you are going to be like, what? But I want you to know that you really could get twice as much done every single day if you simply manage your mind around time, right? If we were able to recenter and refocus, our experience of time would be completely different, okay? When we create so much stress for yourself regarding time, we're much more likely to eat to feel better, to use social media or shopping to feel better, to drink or use recreational drugs to try to feel better, instead of dealing with the discomfort. We're like, oh, but I'm so exhausted by the end of the day. I'm so wiped out. I need this just to unwind. Not realizing that the reason you are so exhausted and need to unwind is because of all of the pressure and stress that you are creating yourself by the way you're thinking about it throughout your day. Creating, practicing, and then believing abundant thoughts is one of the primary ways that we can counteract a scarcity mindset. It's easy for me to go and say, just think, there is enough time for me to get done what I want to get done, or some affirmation like BS. But that's not what I'm about. Not because that thought has no use or value, because it's a beautiful thought, but for many of us, it's not believable. We have to build up to it, and we use that by doing a thought ladder. I did a whole episode of the thought ladder about a year ago, so you might want to check that out. But the basic idea is that we have to start with a thought you have and build up to a more aspirational thought, like a goal thought. And the goal thought doesn't have to be super positive and abundant like the other ones I just offered. So here's what I believe is a very realistic thought ladder to start untangling some time scarcity. I got to work on that title. Anyway, so we're going to start at the bottom with I'm running out of time. Then we want to work on something that's a little less than that, but it's kind of believable. Maybe it's like, it's possible I have more time than I think I do. When we're working on belief, we have to give our brain all of the qualifiers. Maybe another thought could be, there's been other times that I have thought that time was running out, but I actually finished things early or on time, or I got something unexpected during this time. These, again, are great suggestions to get your brain going out of that grind of I'm running out of time, right? All we have to do is open our brain up to the possibility that might not be 100% true. The opposite doesn't have to be 100% true either. We just want to believe in possibility. Another one might be, there are other people in the world, women going through what I'm going through at the same age as me, that don't feel like time is running out. What do those women think about? How do those women spend their time? No judgment about them or you. It's not allowed. Only curiosity. Another thought could be, there's no wrong way of spending time. This is really good if you have a goal that you keep procrastinating. Maybe you're telling yourself that you want to reach out to a new clinic or get a second opinion, but something keeps you from doing that. And the things that you use to maybe numb yourself from the feelings associated with that. Maybe you pick up your cell phone to call a new clinic, and then you open your Facebook or Instagram and distract yourself, right? And then you're going to probably beat yourself up for doing that. There was a reason that you stopped yourself. There was a reason, there was a thought that created a feeling that drove that action, or in this case, inaction of making that call. Again, no judgment, only curiosity. What was more appealing about IG or Facebook or whatever that kept me from doing what I said I was going to do? Maybe at the top of the thought ladder, I always have time to complete, accomplish, or focus on the things that I choose are important. And I want you to all really pay attention to that language that I'm using there. It's not that the outcome is guaranteed, never, but rather that I can choose where to focus my energy and my time and my brain power and all of that, right, in pursuit of that goal. Because here's the thing, if you're already in the process, then telling yourself over and over and over that time is running out is completely useless. It doesn't do anything to help you manage your mind. If anything, that's a sign of your brain like being completely run amok, like it is just running loose. If you already have an appointment with an RE or a clinic, if you're waiting to start your workup, if you're waiting to start a cycle, if you're in your 2-week wait following the egg retrieval or chromosomal testing, or waiting for beta, you're about to start taking medication for a cycle, even if you're about to make the decision to take some time off for your mental, emotional, physical, or financial health, or if you're waiting for insurance approval, like all of this, I want to impart this on you. Just because you are waiting for something does not mean that time is running out. You are still in the process. Trust yourself. Trust that process. That is what I want for each and every one of you. You don't have to be a jerk to yourself in the wait. It is possible. Okay? That is what I have for you today, my beautiful friends. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.